You lead it or am I?
I'll start us out and see what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the planning commission meeting. This meeting is live streamed, so it'll be on YouTube later on. What we're here for tonight, Dan, you got a plan you'd like to present, or tell us what you're doing down there?
Just shooting from the hip, but not give me stand up and do it, or?
Come up here, yeah.
I'm Dan Foltz, owner of Dunright Properties in Lincoln Meadows Mobile Home Park. We have a lot of interest from the outside contractors working on the wind and solar, wanting to bring RVs in temporarily, and we'd like to be able to put pads in to do that, and hopefully they spend their money in Dunkirk. There's a lot of them wanting to leave Muncie, an RV park called Big Oak, because they're on well water and it's ruining their RVs. And like I say, we have 7 of them right now that's renting our mobile homes, and I know they're at town here a lot, but and go to Dollar General, but just trying to find out what we got to do to get and I don't want this to be a full-time thing either. I mean, at the end of the project, because it's going to be a full-fledged mobile home park when it's done, not a campground. You know, it's.
All right. I'll let Randy, you can fill the planning commission in on the zoning and what the zoning ordinance says about fifth wheels and camper trailers and stuff.
So Christie's probably gonna have to help me a lot, and you, because of course I'm still new at this, but my understanding that anything that is brought into that area has to have 900 and some square feet to live in. I don't know how much, or I don't know what a fifth wheel would do,
I'm barely getting that with my mobile homes.
but you're getting.
Yeah.
Right.
I do believe that the ordinance says that each one would have to have its own water and sewer hookup.
Sure.
It would have to be a tie-down system, just like a mobile home. In other words, I guess my question is, do we make it a trailer park or do we make it a campground? Because I don't know how else to bring in something that could damage our water system. Because even a mobile home, you really have to go, you step up to keep our
Right.
lines from freezing.
Right. We'll have the water will be in a pit below ground, and then they have their heated water hoses that hook to them. But
And then also the ordinance says that every one of them has to be skirted. So,
well, I think what we're looking here for is a variance on the said ordinance.
I think what the difference here is, Randy, is you're thinking a mobile home, you're thinking trailers, he's wanting to put fifth wheels in.
Right.
Because that's a recreational vehicle, it's a totally
Right.
different thing.
So you've got 2 things going on here. So you said as the planning commission, you are in charge of the map and amending and rezoning the map and perhaps changing the rules. So there's a set of rules in the zoning code for mobile home parks and what mobile homes have to comply with. But there's also another ordinance on your books that says that you're not allowed to basically live in RVs within the city limits. You know, there's some pretty strict storage where it can be stored, and so that's another hurdle. That it's, you know, there's a distinction, as you point out, between RVs and mobile homes. Mobile homes have the requirements of mobile home parks. They've got to be on a block or some other similar foundation. They've got to be tied down. They've got to be skirted. They've got to be all the things, and they're designed to be lived in year round. Whereas an RV or a camper trailer is, you know, meant to be used not necessarily year round. It's not really designed for that. So a variance is the Board of Zoning Appeals, right? So the variance base is a different group. The variance basically is that, well, I know that I'm not allowed to do this on this particular lot because it's not zoned for that, but I'm asking you to basically make an exception and allow someone to do something on their property that it's maybe not allowed to do it's usually related to a use issue, or maybe some requirement or some issue related to the zoning code itself. So for instance, a common type of variance that you see, I've seen a lot, is usually related to setbacks. Somebody comes in and says, you know, your zoning code requires you to have a setback of so many feet from a property line to do something, but they don't have enough, for whatever reason, property there to build whatever they're going to build. So they go to the BZA and they say, BZA, will you give me a variance for this? Another type of variance is perhaps a use related to something like what he's suggesting is, well, I want to have a business at my house or something. I want to run my beauty shop out of my house, or I want to sell something out of my garage, whatever. I want to be a mechanic or something, have a shop there. But I live in a district, a residential district that doesn't permit that kind of stuff. Will you allow a special use as the BZA to allow that use to take place? And the BZA has some authority, or at least has some ability to say, okay, we'll let you do it, but we're not gonna let that happen for everybody. Okay, so that's usually a use-related restriction. You might say, okay, if you want to put a beauty salon in your garage or something like that and run that out of the house, we're okay with that, and we're going to put restrictions on parking and making sure you've got adequate space, whatever, right? But if you sell your house to somebody else, that doesn't necessarily transfer to the buyer. Okay, what you folks are asked or could be considering tonight is, can you change the rules, right? So you've got to think a couple of options. You could say, well, we could change it related to the RV restrictions. That's an option, I suppose, if you wanted to say, well, we could change the rules and allow people to live in their RVs in the city limits. That's something you'd have to do could consider. Or perhaps amend the map, because the way that's zoned right now is industrial down there, and mobile home parks aren't really a permitted use in industrial either, but I know it's probably one of those situations where it's been there a long time and it's just sort of a non-conforming use, and that's what we call that, right? It was probably a mobile home park when the zoning code was passed, and if it was there when it was passed, then it's the literal grandfathered in, right? It's a non-conforming use, and it is what it is. So you could consider, is there any way to rezone that down there to a different classification that would permit either a mobile home park or an RV park? And I looked, because I looked at this earlier today, I looked at it actually the other day when Jack called me and told me to study up on this. I don't know that there's actually any area in your city that is zoned for an RV park. Now RVs are, unless I missed something somewhere.
We don't have.
So RV parks are defined in your code, but it's not under commercial, it's not under ag, it's just not in there. So that's something you could also consider, is saying, well, okay, we could zone that so that an RV park could be, because it looks to me like at one point it was maybe considered as something that would be allowed because it's defined in your code for RVs, but it's not, it's nowhere in the city that I can find that an RV park would be allowed. Now, an RV park is defined as 2 or more units, mobile campers, RVs, motorhomes, those kinds of things. That would be considered an RV park. And I don't know a lot about RV parks.
It requires a separate license from a mobile home park, and
it's different.
which I talked to the state about that, and they said for this, if you could get a temporary variance, that they were going to come in and make sure we're not leaking sewage and all that.
Right.
But they said that they wasn't going to require the whole licensing thing, because like I said, we're not planning on keeping it that way. It's just until the projects are over, but.
So I guess if this group, I would say doesn't have the ability to grant a variance, because you're not the BZA, you're just the planning commission. But the options I think you have would be to permit, do you want to consider changing the maps in some way to either allow for something like this or not? And then if so, I think we probably ought to put some thought into because they're not really well defined in their RV, parks. I've seen some other ordinances that have, requirements about trash pickup, parking, rules and regulations. I think, and I could be wrong about this, because I dealt with this in another county once, the state may even require some sort of like playground or something.
I think after so many 10 units or
Yeah,
whatever, I know we fell in a smaller category
Okay.
down there for that, but it was, I can't remember the number.
So there's a whole host of issues if you open that up, if that would be something this group would want to consider, opening that up and considering, will you allow RVs in the city limits? Okay, well then what does that look like? And how can you change the zoning map and the rules and come up with a set of rules to make that number one, enforceable for your zoning administrator and me eventually if I have to, and also for the public too, that they can understand what do they have to do to comply with your rules. So those are kind of the two roles. Or, like I said, I think you could also consider, do we want to open up allowing people to have, I would be recommending against doing that, removing that prohibition against people living in their RVs, because we had that in Portland a while back, and that was not good, because I'm not saying that they would do anything, you keep it nice, and if it's in a confined area, it's probably okay, not much different than mobile home park. But then you're gonna have everybody and their brother pulling campers in, vacant lots, parking them on the street, living in their storage units. We've had that problem. So I think that just opens up a whole can of worms that you may not want to go down that road. So that's just my 2 cents for what I think this group needs to think about. I think the one thing that you could do is, like I said, change the map and then put some regulations in allowing for an RV park of some kind. But then that comes with more work, I think, of figuring out what are the rules. Are we going to limit it to something, a certain time frame? Is it require? Go ahead.
That's on one of the lists for this company to.
Yeah.
Right, that's,
What to do.
yeah, that's one of the things that
Yeah.
we're going to be studying here at some
The
point.
steering committee's supposed to be studying that right now.
Right.
Are you pulling in the fifth wheels or?
No, they
is-
will bring their own.
So you don't have any idea what the fifth wheel will look like?
Oh, yeah, they're very nice. They're $150,000 plus fit, they're very nice. These guys travel all over the country with them doing this, it's,
There's always a regular trailer.
that's why I said, we're not
But you said you have trailers down there.
mobile homes.
Yeah, mobile homes that they're living in.
We do it, yeah. They're, all the ones I deal with are all bosses, so they're all foremans out there, and I don't know how I ended up that way, but the connections I made is, yeah.
Well, what I wanted to do tonight is get this started. I didn't want Dan to think we was dragging it out, which we was, because it had to get established here, but I want to be fair to everybody, fair to the planning commission and Dan and his business. So I think we got this started. I think what the planning commission needs to do, this is my opinion, is study the books and the ordinances a little bit, and maybe bring something back the next meeting.
Let me interject because I was the one that told him, I thought he needed to go to BZA.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Because my feeling was, it doesn't conform to our zoning. And the BZA should have been my opinion, where he should have went. Because they could have said, okay, we will permit it down there, and they could have set the time limits and all, and we wouldn't have to change all the zoning ordinances to make that happen, because I don't want to do that either. I don't want to change the zoning ordinances to allow it anywhere else or to allow anybody else to do it. I wanted to let the BZA say, yeah, we'll go ahead and let you do it down there for 3 years, whatever. Here's our stipulations,
My only thing there is I think you're trying to change the zoning that's already established, so I think you gotta bring this group.
You're not changing, you would have to change, if you change the zoning,
Yes, that's what
then
I'm
you would do
saying.
that. But I didn't want to change the zoning. I wanted to allow them to use it under our current zoning as variance.
I think that is something I think you could do, the BCA could do. Again, that would be more of a special use variance. that could be temporary. I mean, the BCA could put whatever restrictions they wanted on granting, if they were to grant it. They could say, as Dan suggested, maybe it's only for 2 years, maybe it's only for 5 or 10 or whatever. They could put a limit on the numbers down there. They could say, we want to have whatever assurances that the city water and sewer department need to have to make sure it's not gonna damage the utility, the town's and city's utility. It's possible, again, I think that's an option that, and then it would only apply to the current owner, in this situation. It wouldn't transfer to somebody else. Again, I'm render any decision, and I think it would also have to be contingent upon whatever state guidelines they give you. You know, if they tell you you can get by with whatever, you know, on a temporary basis, fine, but those are the options, right? I think a variance through the BCA, or study it with this group and say, let's look at our maps and our regulations and things as well. Because a use variance is truly saying, yeah, you said you can do whatever, this thing on your property that, you know, Jack isn't allowed to do because you've convinced us that it's a good idea, right? And I mean, now there's some legal standards there that apply. I mean, I don't know that we're there yet, but that is the other option for you to say, well, let's just refer this to BZA and we'll let them deal with it, you know, and then you guys can continue on down your merry way of studying your maps and regulations and everything that you're gonna do, so.
How many fifth wheels are we talking about here? You want to put down there?
No more than 10, probably 5. I know I got 5 guys right now that say they'll pack up and come as soon as I can have a lot ready. The other ones, they're coming and going, like these, they might be there 2 months, they might be there 6 months, they might be there a year, you know, but it's different crews coming and going, and they all talk amongst themselves, and, you know, it's.
You have places for that?
Well, I was just I'm gonna put gravel pads in, and then all the utility hookups there, just like a campground basically, but I'm gonna basically set it up like where the other homes are gonna go anyhow, the permanent homes when they come in. So, except for the electric would have to be switched from their 50 amp service back to the 100 or 200, whatever we're gonna run on them homes, but.
Did they give you a time span on how long this was, not even a ballpark?
You know, it's like I know there's supposed to be a second phase of Blackford County, it's getting ready to start after this one. The Jay County, I don't know what's going on in Jay County yet.
There's 3 projects in Jay County, and I don't know what the
I-
current status is, but I could see even the Pinville one, or the Red Key one.
I know the AEP built a substation out in Jackson Township. They built that on those.
Sun Chief, which is, I get the names all confused. I think that's the one up by Pinville.
Yeah.
They plan to start this year, I think. And they actually, the commissioner just approved the engineer for the decommissioning agreement. So that means they're getting ready to pull their improvement permit at some point in the near future. Rose Gold is the one out here at Dunkirk, and
Hobson.
what's that?
Hobson?
Hodson is the other one across from
The Anderson,
the Andersons, and then I'm trying to think of the one over in
Red Key.
Red Key. That might actually be Sun Chief. Skycrest might be the one up
Skycrest, that's
there.
it.
So Sun Chief might be the one that's getting ready to.
This is Leeward.
Yeah, they are.
That's,
Leeward is the
Yeah.
Rose Gold.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
one out here on 400.
I know, I talked to John Himmelgarn about a month ago, and he said he didn't have anything definite yet on Star. He said he thought Richland Township was gonna be the first one if it did, but.
They keep pushing it back.
Yeah, he said, if it does, he said, one stroke of a pen, it could go away, so I don't,
Who knows?
So where do we go from here? What's the
well, I think probably is we got a council meeting here in a few minutes. You probably need to call another meeting with the planning commission. You guys can get into your ordinances a little deeper, and I'll get with BZA.
Let me ask this question. Does it really matter what we decide to vote on if it's got to go to the BCA anyway?
No, it doesn't have to necessarily go to the BCA.
If you change the zoning to allow it, it doesn't have to go to the BCA.
Yeah.
If we don't, then the BCA will.
Yeah, if you guys decided, I think the question is do you guys want to dig into this zoning issue and change the map or change the class, rezone that down there?
Not for temporary, I think
Yeah, that's what I'm
that's silly.
saying.
And then if not, then maybe the BZA and variance is the best route to go.
Well, Dan, how quick are you wanting an answer?
Well, right now, I'm not gonna do anything until the ground thaws out and everything. I mean, I would like to go in sometime in March to get, depending on
I don't know
weather,
if we can
but
go that quick.
Sometimes in the next month, can you get something from the state that says
Yep.
what you gotta do, that'll
Yep.
give us a better plan
yeah.
to what they need to do too, probably.
I know what I thought, he said basically just so we don't, the sewer lines are hooked up right
Yeah.
and that's not a problem, so.
All right, I think what you need, just table this tonight, and you can call another meeting, you guys can sit down and I'll get BZA, whichever way you decide, we'll go that way.
We had a mobile, I know this has been several years ago, but we had a BZA request for a mobile home down on North Street, I think. Some girl wanted to pull a mobile
Well,
home
so
in.
you can do that, that's in your ordinance.
Well, but it wasn't allowed because mobile homes
Special
are not
exception is
allowed
Special exception.
in residential areas unless it was a mobile home park. But we allowed it to, because she was gonna take care of her grandparents. So we allowed her to pull it in for a short period of time while she was
Yeah,
taking care of
it's
her
only
grandparents.
allowed
As
in
soon as they
R3.
were done, she had to take it out.
No R1 or R2, just R3.
But that was the BZA that did that.
Yeah, they do
I
special.
had one down, right beside us, and we moved in down on Grand Street, had a trailer park back there. We started out with one trailer and then added 4 or 5.
Well, if you
One was for
remember
grand-
right,
one was
this
for
town,
grandmother,
the only
and 4 or
reason
5
this town got zoning was because of the mobile homes.
Yeah.
That's why they got it, because we had mobile homes everywhere.
Oh, no.
And they put a stop to it, said, here's,
Yeah, they
so
finally stopped it down.
it got to the point where once the mobile home got so bad, they couldn't put a new one back, or they couldn't put a new one back in, so they did away with a lot of them. And I don't think we want to go down that road, changing the zoning to allow, I don't think we want to change the zoning to allow RVs or campers or whatever, but I think it could be a special exception. There was my feeling is that the variance or a special exception to allow it in one area for a short period of time, whatever it is. Because I know we've currently got 2 or 3 that people are living in right
You
now.
guys can set up a meeting and we'll go.
So all good with you guys?
Yeah.
Connie, is that good with you?
Just take.
We don't know.
Yeah.
You guys can set one.
Wait till next week. Jane says she'll be able to get out next week.
Is that all right with you, Dan?
Fine.
You good there?
Yep. Thanks for hearing me.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you,
Yep.
Dan.
You can set that up, you know, anything you want to have.
Be next week sometime? Is that all right with everybody?
I've got to get next week.
Okay.
You said it earlier. Like, 1 afternoon.